Good evening to you, Annie. We bring you on often to try and analyse situations like this, where there are accusations against Russia, particularly in terms of intelligence. So we've had accusations here from 3 different countries. What's your initial response to the information provided and the claims that have been made?
My initial response would be I'd be very surprised if Russian intelligence weren't trying to get their hands on this sort of information, bearing in mind that under the terms of the Chemical Weapons Convention, which Russia has signed up to, and which the OPCW basically said at the end of 2017 Russia had got rid of all its weapons of mass destruction, apart from nuclear, where we have a situation where actually if such an attack had happened, they should be given access to the investigation within 2 weeks. They should be included in the OPCW investigation. And they weren't. They were specifically excluded. And we saw the same thing as well with the MH17 attack. So, you know, being absolutely excluded from an investigation where they could have provided professional and specialised information and expertise, of course they're going to want to find out what is going on. So in terms of the British particularly pointing fingers at Russian intelligence and saying, this is terrible, how dare you try and get information secretly? I just find that absolutely breathtakingly hypocritical, because that's exactly what British spies do. It's exactly what all our spies do. That's what they're paid to do. And yet there seems to be this sort of double standard at the moment that, you know, we in the West are allowed to do this. We in the West can set up new cyber attack centres, which was only announced a couple of weeks ago in the UK. But the Russians are not allowed to do this. Now, why not?
Do you think we'll actually see, I mean, I may have missed it, but do you think we will see hard evidence to prove their guilt? Or is it going to be one of those situations where government organisations say, well, we can't show you that evidence because it would reveal how we gathered it and so it will hurt us?
I think that will be the inevitable response, yes. And the fact that these alleged 4 GRU experts who were intercepted in the Netherlands and were shipped back immediately, no charges presented, no big fanfare back in April at the time, when, you know, you think they would want to try and make a big media deal about it, speaks volumes. But it's interesting that all this is coming out today about the Russians. And yet, you know, go back 5 years, we had Edward Snowden and his disclosures about all the aggressive attacks the West was perpetrating across Europe, all the aggressive attacks that Britain was perpetrating against its EU allies and wider as well. I mean, only last month as well, we had the people involved in the EU Brexit negotiations here in Brussels accusing the Britons of hacking the negotiations and the spies hacking the negotiations for advantage. And in fact, I said at the time, that's precisely what British spies should be doing in the economic interests of Britain. So this is what all our spies do. This is what they're paid to do. And sometimes they get caught, and sometimes political hay can be made of it. But this is also as well, just one final point on that. Only today, in the Guardian newspaper in the UK, we have a report about the Investigatory Powers Tribunal, which actually holds the British spies to account. And they were making allegations about the fact that MI5 has special directions that allow people who work for them, their agents, to break laws and be immune for prosecution. So, you know, again, in Britain, this is going on. In Russia, this is going on. In America, in all our countries, of course it's going on. So trying to make a huge story out of what is effectively a non-story about spies doing their job is, I think, rather disingenuous and very hypocritical.
As you said, all the major powers, I suppose any country worth its salt is trying to do this kind of stuff, espionage, and to gain information on other nations. These are accusations at the moment. We don't have the proof. But my question to you is, how do you know when these stories are real, if proof is never put forward for public consumption? And how do you know when governments are just going, well, people will believe us if we make the claim, this will be good for political capital, let's just throw some claims out there? How do you know what's real and what isn't?
Well, this is another huge problem at the moment. I mean, ever since the whole Russiagate juggernaut started in America in the wake of the Donald Trump election, assertions have been made repeatedly on many different fronts. And because they can never be proven one way or the other, they then just become the media narrative and therefore the political narrative. And then we have our governments, you know, having conniptions about fake news and things, and then bringing in new laws to try and censor the free flow of information over the internet, the free flow of information even through the legacy media. And that way lies a sort of totalitarianism where we cannot know the truth. We have a situation now where people distrust the media. They are worried about what the spies might be feeding into the media process. And I think that has particularly accelerated since the lies that took us into the Iraq War in 2003 were exposed. And also, again, in the UK as well, the lies around the spies not being involved in torture in the war on terror after 9/11. And this has all been laid open now. So whatever is being said today, if anything comes out, it will probably disprove it, but it'll be years in the future, and we need to know the truth now.